Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into what is arguably the ultimate biological superpower. We're talking about a microscopic manufacturing process that literally sustains almost all life on Earth. Yep, we're demystifying photosynthesis, and we are going to break down exactly how this incredible biological factory operates.
I've definitely daydreamed about having this exact superpower. Just imagine never having to cook or shop for groceries ever again. But, well, while animals and humans totally missed out on this ability, plants, algae, and certain bacteria use it every single day. They literally manifest their own food using nothing but sunlight, water, and the air right around them.
To really wrap our heads around this, we have to contrast two fundamental ways of making a living on this planet. We are heterotrophs, which essentially means other feeders. We have to hunt, forage, or harvest to get the energy we need. Plants, on the other hand, they are photoautotrophs, meaning self-feeders using light. They don't need to go out and find food because they capture solar radiation to build it themselves right from scratch.
Think about a majestic tree in your local park. It is constantly pulling in sunlight from above, absorbing carbon dioxide from the air, and drawing up water from its roots. Through its internal factory, it processes all of those inputs to produce life-sustaining sugars for itself, while simultaneously releasing oxygen as a byproduct, which, let's be honest, is incredibly fortunate for us.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover life's solar-powered engine, a timeline of discovery inside the chloroplast factory, Stage 1, light reactions, Stage 2, Calvin cycle, and finally, adaptations and global impact. Let's get into it. Section 1. Life's solar-powered engine, the ultimate energy source for the living world.
You know, every time you eat a vegetable, or even eat an animal that ate a vegetable, you are essentially consuming processed solar energy. Here's the overarching recipe for how that magic happens. For our inputs, we have 6 carbon dioxide molecules, plus 6 water molecules, plus sunlight. When the plant processes these together, it yields the outputs: 1 molecule of glucose, which is a sugar the plant uses for energy and growth, and 6 molecules of oxygen. It sounds simple enough on paper, but the actual mechanics behind it are absolutely mind-blowing.
What's truly fascinating here is the sheer diversity of these producers. It's not just leafy ferns or massive trees. We're also talking about microscopic planktonic algae that cover enormous swaths of the ocean. There's even a wild group of organisms living down in dark, deep ocean vents called chemoautotrophs. They synthesize food without any sunlight at all, extracting their energy directly from inorganic chemical compounds. Nature always finds a way, right?
Section 2. A timeline of discovery. Unlocking the plant's microscopic secrets.
So how did humans actually figure out the invisible ingredients of this complex equation? Well, it wasn't an overnight thing. It took centuries. Back in 1648, a physician named Van Helmont figured out that plants absorb water. Fast forward over a century to 1771, and Joseph Priestley realized they actually release oxygen. Jump to 1864, and Julius Sachs gave us the evidence for green chlorophyll and starch production. And finally, in the 1950s, Melvin Calvin used isotopes to map out the incredibly complex path of carbon, unlocking the actual chemical cycle that bears his name today. Section 3. Inside the chloroplast factory, zooming down to the cellular level. Now it's time to zoom way in, past the outer layers of the plant, straight into the microscopic structures. Think of a leaf like a bustling industrial park. Carbon dioxide enters through these tiny, adjustable doors called stomata. The gas then travels into the leaf's mesophyll cells. That's the middle layer where the heavy lifting happens. Inside these cells are organelles called chloroplasts, which are basically the factory buildings themselves. And inside those chloroplasts, you have stacks of membrane-lined discs called thylakoids, which honestly look a bit like stacks of green pancakes. And they're just floating in a clear, watery fluid called the stroma. Section 4. Stage 1. Light reactions. Capturing the sun's energy. This entire biological factory operates on 2 very distinct assembly lines. The first one is Stage 1, the light reactions. This is where the plant literally catches the sun. These light-dependent reactions happen right within the membranes of those tiny thylakoid discs. Pigments, like green chlorophyll, capture photons of light, and this light energy is used to literally split incoming water molecules. When the water gets split, oxygen is released as a byproduct, and yes, that is the exact oxygen you and I are breathing right now. Inside these membranes, we have what is essentially a microscopic electrical grid, known as the electron transport chain. Protein pigment complexes called photosystems pass excited electrons down a chain.
As these electrons move, their energy is used to pump protons inside the thylakoid disc. This creates a massive buildup of pressure, very much like water building up behind a dam. When those protons finally rush out through this incredible turbine-like enzyme called ATP synthase, boom, they generate energy.
So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that this first stage, the light reactions, produces two vital things for the next step. It creates ATP, which serves as the plant's literal chemical energy currency, and it creates a molecule called NADPH, which acts just like a fully charged battery carrying high-energy electrons.
Section 5, Stage 2, Calvin cycle, building the sugar.
All right, with our biological batteries fully charged and our pockets full of chemical currency, we move out of the thylakoid discs and into the surrounding fluid, the stroma, for Stage 2. Welcome to the Calvin cycle. Now, it's often called the dark reactions or light-independent reactions. That name's a little misleading, though. They don't actually require darkness, they just don't directly need a photon of light to run. But make no mistake, this cycle absolutely relies on the ATP and NADPH we just finished manufacturing on that first assembly line.
This cycle is beautifully structured into 3 precise steps. First up is fixation. An incredibly important enzyme called rubisco grabs inorganic carbon dioxide right from the air and attaches it to an organic molecule. Next is reduction. The ATP and NADPH we made are used to pump energy and electrons into this molecule, completely transforming it into a high-energy sugar called G3P. Finally, regeneration. While some of that G3P leaves the cycle to eventually become glucose, the rest is recycled to rebuild the starting molecules, so the whole process can just keep turning smoothly.
Section 6, Adaptations and Global Impact. Adapting to survive and powering the world.
So, now that we've mapped out the factory floor, let's look at how plants actually adapt to extreme environments. Because not all environments are friendly to this process. Plants have had to evolve some incredible adaptations to survive. Take the cactus, for instance. If a cactus opened its stoma doors during the day to grab carbon dioxide, that blazing desert sun would literally boil away all of its precious water. So instead, it uses something called CAM photosynthesis. It only opens its doors at night when it's nice and cool, chemically stores the carbon dioxide, and then runs the rest of the factory during the day while keeping its doors tightly shut. Pretty brilliant, right?
To really grasp the mind-boggling scale of this microscopic process, get a load of this. Across all the plants, algae, and bacteria on Earth, photosynthesis churns out an estimated 150 billion metric tons of carbohydrates every single year. That's a massive output, fueling nearly every food web on the entire planet, easily making it one of the most important chemical processes in existence. But here's something truly wild to think about as we wrap up. When we drive our cars or heat our homes using fossil fuels, we are actually burning ancient solar energy. The coal and petroleum we rely on today, they're just high-energy covalent bonds formed by this exact biological factory millions of years ago in ancient plants. Which leaves us with a pretty profound question for this explainer. As we rapidly exhaust all this ancient stored sunlight, what exactly will we engineer to power our future? Keep that in mind the next time you look at a simple green leaf. Thanks so much for exploring with me, and stay curious.